Hi. It's exciting to see so many people out. I'm a volunteer for Pacific Northwest Family Circle. I've been there from day one. I'm honored to be here today. I've been invited by our families to speak, to give an overview of Pacific Northwest Family Circle and our focus on district attorney accountability, why it's important to us. I'm going to read because I have a lot of things that I want to say and I want to be pretty precise about them. I promise not to bore you. First, I'd like to do a native land acknowledgement. Today, we acknowledge that we struggle for justice for Pacific Northwest Family Circle loved ones and all stolen lives lost to police violence on the stolen land of Indigenous peoples, including the Multnomah, the Chinook, the Clatskanie, the Kalapuya, the Molalla, the Akwati, the Wasco, the Wishram, the Yakima, the Cowlitz, the Clackamas, and many more not named here. Indigenous people thrived on this land since time immemorial before the arrival of colonists. For 10,000 years, land Hurley called the United States and spanned 50,000 generations of indigenous nations. The Pacific Northwest especially supported thriving civilizations with hundreds of spoken languages and many peoples managing these resources throughout history. It's likely that 25 million people were killed and others enslaved in the genocide that allowed colonizers to establish control over the land now called the United States. Later, indigenous populations were and continue to be controlled by forced sterilization. In the face of all of this, thousands of indigenous people descended from local tribes and elsewhere continue to live in what is called Portland, Oregon. Nationally, they continue to experience the highest rate of police violence. Killing people to get and protect wealth is at least as old as the founding of the United States. When today's police kill loved ones, they are participating in a long arc of violence used by the government to secure the safety and wealth of a handful of overprivileged people. May our understanding of the history of government-supported violence perpetrated on Indigenous people inform our work on police accountability so that we may receive justice and also serve and support the people on whose land we are either relatives, occupiers, or both. Pacific Northwest Family Circle is an all-volunteer community group that unites Oregon and Washington families whose loved ones were killed or injured by police. The idea of connecting families to struggle for justice started in early 2016 when two mothers met, Irene Kalanji and Shiloh Wilson Phelps. They had both lost their sons, Christopher Kalanji and Bodie Phelps, to police violence in Oregon only 4 months apart. Today, Irene and Shiloh are at the center of the leadership as co-founders, ensuring the Pacific Northwest Family Circle is on the right track. Other families lead by contributing ideas and efforts to further the cause of police accountability. Pacific Northwest Family Circle is first and foremost an advocacy organization. Working with our supporters, we educate the public and change laws and policies in Oregon and Washington. For example, the officer that killed Irene's son, Christopher, was not punished by the grand jury, and the paperwork that supports this is a one-page, handwritten document. For 30 years, advocates and activists worked to pass a law in Oregon to require all grand jury proceedings to be recorded and made public. It's significant to me that the law passed in the year that Irene Kalanji testified to the legislators in Salem about her experience with the district attorney and the grand jury. I'm not saying Irene was the only reason. However, I do feel very strongly in the power of storytelling. From that day, our strategy was squarely to break hearts until no one could sit still on this issue. I want to tell you a little bit about what Pacific Northwest family members go through. When police kill someone, families must face the loss of their loved one. At the same time, they learn that the people who they thought were sworn to serve and protect cannot be trusted. Families' worldview and sense of safety is deeply harmed. It causes them to lose trust in their community and sometimes their own judgment. In a study of police accountability that Irene participated in, David Baker, a senior lecturer in criminology at Coventry University in the UK, found that families feel there is little or no accountability in the current justice processes. There was consistently a lack of information made available to families and a lack of transparency in the process of investigating and disciplining of officers in these cases. Families
families felt information was withheld, and this meant a partial narrative was constructed, one that did not reflect multiple evidence sources in relation to the death. Families felt that the investigations were not independent, and this reflected a bias in favor of police, not an impartial process of justice. The perceived lack of accountability, transparency, and independence combined to produce a lack of legitimacy. Families did not believe that criminal justice organizations were legitimate institutions in terms of producing justice and accountability after these deaths. Speaking out against police violence is exhausting, and it takes a toll on it takes a physical toll on the families who feel compelled to do this work. You may have heard of Erica Garner's stress-induced death struggling for her father, Eric Garner, in New York. Locally, Fred Bryant died of a broken heart just 3 years after starting his struggle for Keaton Otis, his son, who was killed by Portland police over 9 years ago. After a loved one is killed, police monitor the family, especially the ones who will not stay silent. Police drive by their houses and they park outside them. They follow them through town as they drive. Houselessness is also a common experience, often because landlords don't like a lot of people coming and going, even if they're coming to support the family. Irene was evicted when the sheriff's department refused to pay for the $15,000 worth of damage they did while killing her son in their apartment. On the wall here, well, you could see, the loved ones of Pacific Northwest Family Circle family members. I encourage you to come up and take a look at them, struggling for justice together. These folks are just a tiny portion of the deaths at the hands of police. Over 360 community members in Oregon alone in the last 27 years have been killed by police. Every single one of those deaths was found justified, meaning that in every interaction with police that ended in the death of a loved one, district attorneys found that police made the correct decision in killing those people. The brand of justice doled out by district attorneys is not accountable or transparent and has protected and even rewarded police officers in Oregon in every case to date. When an officer kills a community member with heartbreaking consistency, police officers are given paid administrative leave and their jobs are restored. Often they receive medals of valor and go on to get promotions. Police violence can happen to anyone, regardless of race, gender, age, veteran or housing status, state of mental health, or any other identity expression, or status. When 100% of community deaths at the hands of police are found justified by district attorneys, this means police can kill anyone under any circumstances and get away with it. This puts the entire community in danger. Media frequently finds a way to demonize the person killed or injured by police, partly because no one is perfect, and it's an easy way to make the police look like they're providing a necessary service. The media also has a stake in reporting what the police tell them to report. If they don't get the scoop. Regardless of a loved one's character, in the case of situations where loved ones are suspects in a crime, we have kind of two categories of deaths at the hands of police. One of them is mental illness, which is a huge problem in Portland, and one of them is a suspect in a crime. So I'm going to talk about the suspect in the crime. And here, regardless of loved one's character, U.S. law guarantees anyone arrested or in need of assistance by police the right to a free and fair trial. Until they are tried, people interacting with police are suspects, or maybe just people having a bad day. When police kill a loved one, instead of taking the time to arrest them, the police are shortcutting the justice system. They act as the police, the jury, the judge, and the executioner. And for the families in Pacific Northwest Family Circle, this happens in a very short period of time, anywhere from 3 hours to 30 seconds. I do this work because I've always thought of myself as a good person. When I woke up to racism and police violence, I realized that I must take action to maintain that opinion of myself. If I didn't, I could never actually be the person that I thought I was. You might think that I'm sad hearing all these stories, and for a time, I do get sad. But I'm mostly joyful to support families who have lost so much and are still showing up to protect our community from further unnecessary deaths at the hands of police. For all our families, that's one huge aspect of what justice looks like for them. So I hope you'll find your own reason to join Surge in their DA for the People work today. Thank you so much for coming.